Hey, hello, Michael.
Hello,
Welcome.
Devin.
We start here as though we didn't just have a conversation before this. Uh, I mean, I don't know who will watch these videos. This video in the future, I'm planning to send it to my circle and have it uh, totally available in the on the world of YouTube. So I think some people watching this will know who Michael Pörtner is and be very familiar. But I also wanted to invite you to say a little bit about who you are and what you do for people who might stumble upon this and have no idea who they're listening to. Would you say some words about yourself, about the trainings, about what you've been interested in, maybe also with the work you've done with holding space for men?
Yes. So well, recently looking back at from the question, like what I've been doing for men and what kind of work I've been providing, it comes very much down to providing spaces where not only men, but humans who are interested in figuring out and really experiencing what else is possible in life to be to be available for them and supporting them to take their next steps on that path. Call it a path of evolution, where it's about stepping more and more away from who they think they are, from the way they were born and raised into, to what really their core is. Like all the layers, like in an onion principle, like all the layers that are put upon the core being that each person is inside, that has a unique quality and a unique vision and mission to bring into the world. It's covered up with so many layers, and to peel off these layers, to come to the core, to express and live that core. This is what my work is about, and this is something that turns me on to be in spaces where that is possible. And in these initiatory spaces, when really taking back the authority and the own power becomes visible in the person and they shift to somebody new. These are spaces that I really appreciate, and I really enjoy being in those and evolve together with the people that are in the space to evolve with me. And I've been doing this in the last 12, 13 years in the context of possibility management, which is the context of radical responsibility, like the same, Devin, that you are active in as well. And yeah, I'm traveling a lot. So currently I live as a nomad, and I'm providing these services like all over the world, mostly in cooperation with other trainers, and which I really enjoy, to be with a second force in the space. It just creates a different container for transformation and evolution to happen. Yeah, and this focusing on working with men is then really to, apart from the very strong imprint that most men have of doing to be somebody, more to be without doing, or let the doing come from the being really, and not so much from my thinking, who should I be? Or what do I think is valuable, but really what comes from the heart and from the being, like really from the inside. So shifting the focus from looking outside, what is it that I want, to go inside and find your own core information, what you as a man want to bring into the world. And that usually shifts the way of living very strongly and creates more aliveness and really living, compared to being very outside oriented. It's more running after and more surviving instead of really living out of out of your own inner truth.
Mm-hmm. Is it kind of coming from not quite something that you said, but something maybe we've talked about before? And it's a question I have, and I think most of this conversation will be targeted toward men. So I'll try to make my questions pretty specific to that. But in this journey for a man to discover what his being or his essence really is, and to pursue that, especially like you said, there are these layers and layers that would be on top of that. And part of what I know to be accurate for myself, and maybe also you, is that the path is mostly a path of breakdown, or of falling apart, at least those outer layers falling apart, and not the path of doing and constructing a being or constructing a thing. And so how do you hold space for men, or what is needed from men to step into, voluntarily step into the kind of breakdown that actually leads them to say their being, or clarity about their path?
What I'm currently researching and finding out that it's, yes, a lot of the path of breakdown, as you just mentioned, Devin. And I think just being only on the path of breakdown, so there's something else. There is a part of, yes, breaking down, peeling layers off. And alongside opens a door for spaces where it's a lot more in that breaking down state, to be in spaces, whereas it's not about peeling another layer off or breaking down even further. Even though there is clarity what a next layer could be, it might have already popped up or shown itself. But I think for a healthy combination of going that path, the breakdown part where a man goes through healing processes and through initiatory processes, peeling off the layers, bringing the being and the qualities more forth. There are spaces needed where it's just about being with some other man, for example. I just had a call this morning with another man on the path, with another possibilitator and a space holder. And we just had this 1 hour where we were vulnerably sharing where we are. And it was not about giving each other distinctions or finding out what the next thing is to do. We were just in that space together, showing ourselves where we are right now. And you could see in the conversation how much we relaxed each one, and what the other man said relaxed something in me, and something I said relaxed something in him. It was a really healing conversation. Mm-hmm. without this, okay, like I'm in a way fierce and clear. I want to peel off these layers. And this is coming a new quality on this path of finding out who I really am, or bringing that into the world, that I see as a new valuable addition to peeling off, is being in spaces. Mm. And that space was a slow space. It was out of the ordinary speed. And this is a new door, a new thing that I'm currently, like, specifically from this conversation this morning, that I'm wanting to research more. Because I know, coming back to your question, this breaking down, I mean, yes, it needs the breakdown, because I have this structure, this box created, which is very solid, which defines who I am, what my identity is, how my life looks like, who I am, which is a natural thing as a man to create. And to be able to hold space for myself to change that, I think the first step is to feel the pain about what the results of living in this structure or with this prison what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Because that pain is the only fuel that will make change that. Otherwise, I just think this structure or this construct made out of my beliefs and my assumptions, my expectations, my education, my worldview is so solid that I believe that that is me. And the real me is inside. It's protected by that structure. It's inside. So feeling the pain of how I survive with that structure, that's the first thing that is needed to even be able to go into starting to break down or start wanting to peel off something.
Mm-hmm.
So it can come off from the results of the pain, or it could be that there's a deep inner knowing inside a man that there really is something different, like what I currently create in my life. Like in the movie Matrix. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like Neo, for me, he knew he was searching in the beginning for Morpheus, for this other character. He knew there is something else different, possible than what he's experiencing right now. I think this can be another cause to go on the path. Yeah, and the thing is like a determination, a commitment to oneself to go through that, because it's painful.
Mm-hmm.
Peeling off these layers brings always pain that comes up, which is the transformative fuel to take the next layer off and to be able to go to a next layer afterwards. So it's really essential to feel, to be able to peel these layers off. And for me, an essential thing to be able to do that is to really have a field or people around me that support me in that.
Mm-hmm.
So this inner, for me, it's an inner conviction to go on and continue this path, knowing it's never over. It will not end. It's not, I'm 53, I do 2 more years and I do this and this training and that and this process. And then I come to a little bit like, retirement. Then I made it and I can sit in my lounge chair and enjoy life. It's an ongoing path, which is great, and it's super frustrating. That's how I experience it, because it's great to know, okay, it's not gonna get boring in a way. There will be new things to figure out about myself. Like the Michael you're talking right now, that's going to be a totally different person if I continue doing this path of evolution in 2 to 3 months. And to see who I am then, and how will life come through me, and how will I experience life. I find that a driver for me to see what else is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And being held in a circle of friends, colleagues who support me when the breaking down is overwhelming and it seems like I can't hold it. I need a shoulder to rest on. And people who support me in that breaking down, who are not rescuing me out of it, but leave me where I am, but they are with me, and I can feel their love and their support by being with me. I think that's a component for being on this path that is essential.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. There's a couple of things coming up from me listening to you. I mean, one is about, I was thinking about this morning, and it's connected to conversations we've had in the past, but about the path of evolution. There's a kind of path of evolution in a person's life where life goes on, and because life just is evolutionary in a way, a person will encounter obstacles that would force them to grow. I mean, an extreme example would be like an alcoholic hitting bottom. Suddenly they've lost everything, and they're in a position where they're forced to either keep going the direction they're going or evolve. And then there's the path of evolution, which is in a way very consciously, deliberately, like Neo in the Matrix, like you're talking about, submitting yourself to being in the washing machine of always something there and always something to grow about. And one of the questions I have is how to make that path in a way compelling. And I don't, by compelling, I don't mean that you would manipulate someone into, or trick someone into wanting to look more carefully at their life and the results of the life they're living, or what's possible. But what I mean by compelling is that there's something really ecstatic also about the evolutionary path. And one of the things that we talk about for men stepping into a new culture, a radically responsible culture, archiarchy, of that kind of level of collaboration with women and being people who are initiated, is that men go through the propeller blades, which is in a way, a very intentionally violent phrase about part of the path for men. And so the question is how what would you say about why that path is worthwhile, or for you maybe, but also, yeah, for any man, why would that path be worth investigating?
It leads to more aliveness and to a different really playing field of what is possible. So I have this assumption, and I deliberately say it's an assumption. The assumption is that a lot of men are, if they would look really inside, they're really bored. They're really bored from being in this game about being better, making more money, being more successful, looking better, having a more muscular body, being more famous, etc., which seems to be the standard goals or achievements for a successful man. Like, it's not too long ago that I checked, like, the men's magazines, like HQ or Men's Health, and however these are called. And they all turn around the same topics. For years, I've been perceiving that. It's pretty much, and sex is one of these topics. And that's pretty much it, the ones that I named. And I think there's a part in the man that is really bored from that knows that there is something else possible. But there is so little mainstream, there is no really offerings for that, to look behind that and go on a different path or check out different possibilities. And what makes it compelling is, in a way, like, it's scary and it's joyful, probably at the same time. It opens up a domain where I do not know. I do not know what will be next, what will come, which can be really scary. And at the same time, it could be coming from a domain where things seem to be pretty clear with the goals or the targets set by the culture, and maybe my linear life plan that I have building up on top of that. Working in a corporation, going from employee to middle management to higher management, it's pretty linear. It opens up a space for something that can really be like a vacuum to pull you in. I mean, it's adventure. Adventure only happens when you're in a space where you do something that you have not done before, which brings up fear, because fear says, this is new, I've not done this, I don't know how that goes. And this can be a door opener who can make it compelling, like, what else is possible in life? For me, how else can I be in life? What else can I create? Specifically, when I look at domains in my life where I keep creating the same results over and over again. Maybe in my romantic relating, where I'm with a woman for a certain time, then the same thing happens. There's arguments, there's resentment. We split up. I'm angry at her for a while, and after some time, I'm in love again, find the next woman, and I keep repeating this pattern. This is what I mean. There's a part inside who is bored of that game. It's like in the theater, being on a show, putting this show on. And that part knows behind the curtains, even if the curtains are open on the stage, but behind the stage, something completely different is possible. It's just staged out there. And connecting with that part, that makes it attractive to do something different. From there, the part that knows there is something else to life, there's something more juicy, more fulfilling in a very different way, in a way that I've not experienced it before, because the door to that space, I didn't even know it existed.
Mm-hmm.
And if I connect with that part, then I can see, oh, there's a door, there's something different possible. And then to bring the courage to go to that door and start opening it and see what's possible there. And it can only be done. It cannot be thought about. It cannot be figured out. It has this follow your fear and do something new. Try to do something you've not done before in the domain, what else is possible. And it's these two things. Like it's scary, depending how I relate with my fear. It opens the door, or if I shy away from feeling fear, which is the standard programming men have about fear, then I will never go to that door. Then I will turn to domains where I don't feel fear. And then I stay in the domains that I'm accustomed with.
Mm-hmm. This kind of connected in a way, but these doorways you're talking about, I think back to the Matrix again, that there are these moments where Neo, before becoming Neo, he's just whoever, John Anderson or whatever his name is, that he's getting these hints and signals. And some of them are really, they're obvious in a way that maybe is not so true to real life. Like a line showing up on his computer that says, follow the white rabbit. And then there's a woman with a little white rabbit tattoo. And so there's the door is really clear. But I think as human beings, and maybe this is more true for men, I'm not sure, like we're trained in a way to not be able to see these invitations that are actually doorways, especially if they're not so apparent as like lines on a fortune cookie or something like that. And I'm asking just practically, and maybe it would even be from your own life, but how a person could become more sensitive to a doorway opening up in front of them. And maybe you talked about it a little bit with the fear, but could you say something about that?
Mm-hmm. I just have this example from how I got to know the context of possibility management. This was following an impulse. Back then, I was still working as a trainer in modern culture for like companies doing team development trainings and leadership trainings. And a friend told me about a possibility management training where she was at. And she spoke a little bit about it, and something sparked inside of me. And I immediately booked a single coaching with a trainer. I didn't know the trainer. I didn't inquire about him. So for me, just following my intuition is one of the ways where, and I think these messages, like you refer to the computer screen where there's a line typed, these messages in this world, in this matrix, they're as clear. They're as clear. And it's like, men are so busy distracting themselves with what I said before, with looking good, having the focus on the outside, but not the focus on where is a clear hint where my life can go, like where I can evolve, like the science of evolution or the universe or echo, more like this, maybe let's call them more superficial ones, like how do I make more money? Yeah. Where's a cool party where I can have fun? And then I'm looking, this part of me looks for joy. And that part inside of me, which is connected to my underworld, is not looking for the path of evolution. It actually tries to avoid that at all cost. And when this part has a strong, like if I'm unconscious and this part is like directing my life, is on the steering wheel, then it will circumvent all the clear signs, like the white rabbit on the shoulder of the woman. Well, like my view will not go there because my underworld will have me look at some other places of the woman, but not noticing that there's a clear sign that gives me a possibility for something different. And since the standard education system, there is no training in that. I mean, the standard education system is not even about that you become who you really are. It's more about that you become somebody who supports the current system. And that has very little to do with who you really are and what you want to bring into the world. So yes, I think we're not at all trained to look for these hints, and they're there in our lives. And another attraction for men to find them or to look there could be really role models, like to see other men who walk a different path and being attracted to that. That could be another doorway. Attracted to something their character represents, something they bring into the world that sparks this part in me that remembers there is something else possible.
I was going to ask, maybe you could throw out a few right now, but who are role models that you have found that would be in that direction? I'm thinking George Gurdjieff would be one for me, but what about from your world?
Like being in this game world of possibility management, I find there a lot of role models. But before I entered that world, the only person and who he attracted me to this game world was the trainer that I did the single coaching with back then. His name is Jonathan Sprung. He's still active as a trainer and coach, and we're still in contact. And I booked the single coaching. He offered me to do anger work. I couldn't express any anger. It felt like the session was a complete failure. I paid my money, nothing happened really, it looked like. And the effect started afterwards that I started getting angry 2 hours after he left. And so I went to a workshop he offered the next day, and there the door opened for me.
Wow.
And he was one of my role models from the first time that I met him, because he had a way of communicating and being with me that was different, that had more connection and more, it's about me and us and not about him. And yeah, he opened the door to the world of feelings. And was the first time I could really express anger in such a huge amount in a held space. And was the first time that I felt I was in a training and something really shifted. I couldn't say what it was, but I knew, whoa, I was in a big liquid state. Like my world was disassembled and was just floating out there. And I only knew, like, this works. And from there on, I knew I want to do this work too, because that's the first time that I really feel this changes something in me.
What did it change?
I didn't know at that moment. It was just like really in the beginning, I was just so liquid. I felt like I was walking on clouds for the rest of the day. Yeah. And the main thing it changed, actually, it attracted me to go deeper into that world. I couldn't even say at the beginning, oh, clearly this changed. I just could feel more space, like for me personally, inside of me, more space and more clarity in this direction. I want more of that. This is a path that is interesting. It really shifts something in me. And so for me, that session reminded me of that part inside of me, that something else was possible. That was my reminder for that part. And from there on, that part had beginning this little thread of being on this path of evolution. And from that part came the motivation to go on through the dismantling these structures and peeling off the layers. And it's still the part that drives me today, or is my red thread or my guideline. And then other than that, out there, I didn't have many role models. I had one female boss. I used to work at a big corporation, and she was very spiritual. Like we spoke a lot about the people and the backgrounds and did family constellation work. And that was the first time a door was open for me away from the standard. We need to make more money. We need to be better. Like the standard competitor business thinking. And that was a first door opener back then. And she was really a role model to be in a man's world. I worked in the IT. It was a man's world. She was a woman. And she brought that quality into that field as good as she could.
Wow.
That was very amazing and very inspiring. Yeah, and now it's been like, now when I read books like, you said Gurdjieff or some, not all of the books, but some E.J. Gold or Lee Lozowick. I've never met these men, but from what they write, there's a spark like, oh yeah, there's somebody who is out there creating something different or investigating or opening spaces that I've never thought about. So there I can see in a way like role models, but in real life, a part of like trainer colleagues, like you are, or Clinton Callahan or others in the context, I don't find very many.
I think so the values of the culture, the values of modern culture, create a world for men and maybe women to some degree too, but definitely for men, where these topics that you mentioned from a GQ magazine of success, it's like success, sex, power, money. These are kind of the places where they're the areas where potential is obvious in modern culture, and the values where it's like, okay, if I work on myself as a man, if I start working out as a man, I'll get stronger, which could lead to more sex, or if I just grind, spend my life grinding and create a company and become a CEO. So there are these kinds of potentials for men that are very obvious and just part of the culture. And the people you just mentioned are exhibit potential that most men would not even suspect that they could have in themselves, like being a mage, like being a person who can truly become sensitive enough to be a source of magic in their space holding, or a source of opening or love or any of these things. And truly not knowing who will watch this interview. So there will be people who already have started to wake up their mage skills, but there might be people who just would hear about that and think that's silly, or that's bullshit, or it's really amazing for other men, but that potentiality is not in me. How would you talk about that? How would you talk about what I call the real potential of a man? And real potential, I just want to say, I don't even, that phrase, like, scratch it, but I think you get what I'm asking about.
Yeah. And a thing that I'm just getting is I'd like to evolve this conversation more, or like this, so far more like interview style, more into a conversation. So
okay,
yeah, just shift that a bit around. So because like you bring so many things in there as well, like questions pop up in me. So that's my proposal.
hey, but I still have some questions specifically for you. So
yes.
Anyway, we keep going.
Yeah. Everybody has the potential for these skills. Every man has these. I think this is like nature. It's like you put a seed in the ground, and some flower or some plant or some tree or some bush will grow. It's all a seed, and every man is a seed. And the magic of that seed will express itself by what's inside. So some will become a rose. Others become a thorn bush or a tree, an apple tree, or maybe a sunflower or a silver birch. And they all have their own magic in ways similar. When you look at them, they have a stem, they have blossoms, they have leaves, different sizes, and that's all like different qualities. And they all are part of the plant ecosystem, like we humans are part of the human Gaia ecosystem. So every man has their qualities, and yours look different from mine, and some might be similar, and yet you have specific ones that come from your archetypal lineage, like from your true nature, what you bring specifically your way into the world. The same for every other man. So the question is basically irrelevant or not there, because every man and every woman, we all have that. We all have that seed. And the path of evolution is one way to create the humus so that that seed can really have a good soil to grow.
Mm-hmm. One of the things, in the interest of starting to make this a conversation, one of the things that I've been playing with is practicing allowing other resources to speak through me, other than just my box or my typical questions or Devin, that something else actually talks. And I have noticed that part of the, I think it's the same with uncovering a seed, is that part of the journey of allowing that to happen, it would be somehow entering, I think it has to do with fear, but entering a space where I wouldn't even say I'm okay with it, but that I'm allowing that what would come out of me might be completely foreign from who I would prefer to be, or who I have up to this point identified as. And part of, I just want to say this about the seed, part of the like skill of allowing the seed to actually have a place to speak, I've noticed, is creating enough space in myself that I don't fill with my preferences or my what I think is, or my identity, that there be a place that's actually free of my identity. And this is actually rolling into a question. I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but a couple of days ago we were in a call, and one of the questions that came up was about men entering Archiarchy, and Archiarchy being the culture of archetypally initiated women collaborating creatively with archetypally initiated men in a journey of radical responsibility. And I think I had asked how, I can't remember what I asked, but you began to speak about something that you were referring to as a bubble that a man can open or cultivate inside himself. That I really just want to hear you talk about that, because it was something I had not heard articulated before. But what I was getting is that this is, in a way, a prerequisite for a man to be able to enter an archiarchal space, is that he begins to cultivate this bubble, maybe of nothingness inside himself.
Yeah, I'm just smiling because the thought came up, like, how could I remember what was speaking through me and what I said a couple of days ago?
I don't, yeah, forget what you said a couple of days ago.
I know. I'm just,
but I get it. Yeah.
And this was like, whatever I said there, this is like what you just referred to, like, that was not Michael speaking. That came from a different research. That did not come from what I know or what I experienced so far.
Yeah.
I didn't reproduce in words something that I already know. It was connected to a different resource, where it became clear that for a man to prepare himself to be, no, it's not for preparing, but that for man, the step is to create the possibility to be in an archetypal space, like in an archiarchy space, or to enter, or even be like knocking on the door of a space where he will meet an initiated adult woman who is in her power. So it's the standard way would be probably like, I do my work and I get in the elevator when I've done my work, and then I can go to heaven or to that level where I can, where I made it. And there is a layer, there's a step, there's a level in between for a man to enter first, which is related to be humbly present, to create a degree of awakeness and to be able to hold that not only for a minute or for a moment, but over a longer period of time, where it's not about who I am as a man, what I've done, what I could do, but it's about what it is that I bring with my presence into the space. And it's scary to do that, because it means stepping aside from what, and I know that from my personal experience, from what I've been holding on so long, like my identity, who I am as a trainer, who I am as a man, who I am as a partner. And to be able to go in that space, I need to let go of that and open up, so the part can come forth and be in this humble, present state that is not connected to my box or my ego or my personality or my identity. And I think this is a skill, or what I currently call a level to step on first and become comfortable with being uncomfortable, because it seems like being in that spot is not comfortable. And it can become something that is a way normal, that it's uncomfortable. That's what I mean when I say become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And from there, see then what is the authentic impulse to be in contact, to create, to act. And that's for me, that's what I found out in that conversation. There is something before I can really go to the door and create or be part of an space in Archiarchy.
There's no school that exists for that, for a man to do that, for a man to learn how to do that. And so what just practically steps would need to be involved in preparing that, I don't know, fertile soil or that space?
There's no school, and yet like the possibilities of choosing your path in the context of possibility management, I don't want to say is like a school, because school is associated with something from modern culture for me, but there's a possibility to exactly go that path. So this is one that I know, and I'm assuming there's others out there that I'm not acquainted with, possibilities to do that as well. And from the first step is to really own your feelings body. So really your emotional body, to really consciously be able to feel. That's the first step. So I can even go to a place where I look at who I am and experience the pain and use the pain, which means I feel the pain, is owning my feeling body, being able to feel. From there, I can use the fuel of the pain for my further path. So I think this is a very essential first step. And it really needs patience. I'm really good at being patient, totally. Not, but patience is a thing, because it's not the more I do, the better it is, or the faster I go, the sooner I reach my goal, because it's not a linear path. It's very non-linear and feels like sometimes taking turns and loops and cruising in roundabouts. And sometimes that's exactly necessary. So I think this is a good starting point, like being able to feel. And that what I said before, what it needs is a team to support. It's not possible to go this path by yourself, because you will always make a big circle around your blind spots because it's a blind spot. I can't see my blind spot. So, and from there being curious, like what else is possible? Like what do I want? Like where do I want to, which culture do I want to live in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are the things that I feel enlightened, not enlightened, I don't know what the English word is, but what is it that I love? And I'm not talking about the structure part that has all my beliefs and my identity, but what comes in contact with my being, where I notice my heart is opening up. Yeah, where I really feel it, this touches me, which is a lot if you start to lower your numbness bar and your attention is more at your service and not out there with all the things happening around you. I can finally start being touched again by the small flower on the sidewalk that is making its way through the concrete, like a miracle coming through the concrete, you know, or seeing a mother with her child and they just have a moment together where I can sense, whoa, there's love flowing. Just examples from what I noticed. So this being patient as in slowing down, not slowing down and being comfortable, you know, and resting, thinking I've done it, but slowing down in how I am acting and operating in the world. I found that a very valuable key for me, coming from a doing, faster is better kind of idea. This is how the world works and makes me successful.
Thank you. There's, I have a couple other things I wanted to hit on. And one that you've talked about a bit is team, the power of having teams. And it's something that I'm, after a lot of years now of doing this work and being involved in possibility management and being in multiple men's groups that eventually I would leave and blah, 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 that I'm just starting to experience being on teams and in relationship with men where really things like competition or pretending in some way, or hierarchy, that those things are very, how do I say, it's not that they don't exist, but I'm starting to experience a kind of relating outside of those with other men. And when we talk about team, that's been I think about the models that I would have had for team in the past would be like a sports team, men being on a sports team together. War would be another one where we're uniting with guns against a common enemy. What else? I mean, in a way, starting a business and having business partners, and I think on the one hand, all of these point to this kind of empty potential of men to do stuff in the world and to make things happen, but that doesn't really have to do with what their souls are longing for. And I'm not sure where the question is here, but it's somehow connected to this, to maybe in what men's culture looks like in terms of being on a team together, not being lone wolves, not having conquering the world being at the center of the team, that something else is at the center of the team. And yeah, I guess what do you know about this, or what have you experienced about this, or that you're discovering about this kind of being on a team with men?
The first thing that comes is really like being deeply committed to the other man is an agreement which is the source of this culture. And that relates to what you're saying, like it's really this, like it's not about me, but I'm putting myself in service for for the other man, which is completely a different perspective from, I mean, I was in sports teams. I did triathlon. I was in triathlon teams. And with my best friends, I was competing all the time. Yes, we put a smile on top of it, but it was just, I need to be better than this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I called him my friend. So it was friendship on the surface and competition underneath. So, well, created results. And it's nothing that I want to create nowadays anymore. It's a challenge to go there. It's really a challenge to take the competitive part to the side. And in 2 weeks from today, together with another man, I'm starting a bridge house for men, where we really investigate in that, living together with other men, really being in this deep commitment for the potential and for the possibility of the other man, so that they can bring their seed up. And if we all in that circle do that for each other, it's a really highly learning oriented, matrix building, growth incubator.
Mm-hmm.
I've not made that experience yet. I'm just going into that experience. That's why I say I'm coming more from even knowing about that, bringing that into the action is still a challenge, because I have my thoughts, my beliefs, my fears, my limitations that are unconscious to me, and they play out in that as well.
Mm-hmm. And
that's what I mean. I'm then wanting the other man to tell me, hey, you're creating competition here just now, when I don't realize it. When I do it, I'm not realizing it. And that's for me this deep or fierce commitment to each other that really like to point that out and be on the other man for his evolution, that he can shift that. And that's for me a quality that I want to experience in this. It's a 6-week experiment we're doing there. And that's the first time I'm living together with other men for such a long time, with that focus of transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, there's experiences of that in like spaces like our call in online spaces or in workshops for limited amount of time, feeling that other men are on my team. And here the thing is, okay, let's do that over a couple of weeks and see how we go as men together. And I mean, it will bring up all these topics when we are living together.
Mm-hmm.
And then to really bring those on the table and see what the possibilities behind being in that pattern, what the possibilities are.
I'm feeling, I'm really glad that this is happening, and sad that I will not be there, but I'm sure there will be lots of research that comes out. Something I've noticed is that these patterns are so subtle. There's a really sort of big, I don't know, examples of sports, say, where it's really obvious the competition is overt. We're talking about it, but that there's so many. What I've noticed in myself is that there's so many subtler things happening in my own underworld or in other men's underworld that don't, even in a 4-day training, would not necessarily have the space to be teased out or made obvious or something. And I think it also requires a high level of sensitivity to notice that a little behavior is the tip of an iceberg for a whole worldview. One of the things I've noticed now for years being in men's spaces is that when men can feel enough that they can say what they're feeling, and especially that they've gone through enough work that their feelings aren't bad, so that their fear is not bad. One of the things that comes up, the question of how do you feel with other men is almost always, I feel afraid in this space with other men. And I feel sad about that, but I think we've been somehow trained to really suspect everybody at some level of not being on our side, or of I need to size this person up, or where do they fit in the status or the hierarchy or something like that. And yeah, so this is all to say I'm glad you're in this research. Me too. Go ahead.
Yes. And like, yes, I feel that too, that there's fear when I'm in the space with men. And the first thing that comes up is it's the creative force. So, okay, let's see, what are we going to create in this space? So to use the fear for creation, for tapping into the resource of, oh, there is adventure, there's something that I don't know yet. Let's see what is possible. And that's where I come, like being able to feel it and to be with the fear then opens. You spoke about the mage and the magic. That opens the space to magic, and then magic can happen amongst the men.
Yeah, right. You didn't say this, but the fear used for the creative force rather than for survival, because that would be the other way that it would work in that kind of space is, yeah, to serve survival rather than, yeah, breaking down survival is sort of almost one of the first moves of fear from a mage, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's this quote that came from the piece we're reading by Anne Chloe, the dignified, arrogant women carry seeds of archiarchy. And I'm bringing it in because you had commented on it the other day. But she said, radically rely on your feelings of rage more than you rely on the emotional fears of your doubt. Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned that it's in a way the opposite for men, that it's radically relying on your feeling of fear rather than your rage, whatever your rage would be about, or your hatred or something like that. And we're kind of talking in this territory of that use of fear. How do you invite a man into beginning to experience his fear with that kind of potential? Or with that purpose, maybe I would say.
Changing the speed is a first step, like stepping out of the faster speed of communicating, of being in contact, like really slowing down and allow more intimacy in the contact, so that when I am showing myself vulnerable, it is an invitation for the other man that he could go there as well. It's like what you said, like a lot of men feel this fear in men's spaces. Actually, men feel fear mostly, which is covered up a lot with anger, not only in men's spaces. Mm-hmm. It's just become so common in modern culture that it's like if a man feels fear, to put the anger on top of it, and rather, before feeling the fear, expressing anger to control, to change, to do something. And that's, for me, then is a key to notice this pattern and step away from following this first impulse of, like, using the anger or the rage to contradict or to go away or to change the topic or to withdraw, but stay and see what else is there. Yeah, and in general, I mean, you offer that as well, like rage clubs, rage work for men to start consciously feeling, consciously owning their anger, opens a space for more consciously making contact with the fear. Mm-hmm. And I'm noticing more and more, if I'm wanting to invite a man to go in a space like this, I need to go first. Going first is the thing, showing myself vulnerable, letting my guard down, expressing what I'm feeling is one of the door openers, so that there's a possibility for another man or for other men to maybe follow that invitation, even though it's not even meant as an invitation, if I'm just sharing or showing what is alive in me. And then there is this practice in sword work, when we work with the bokken, with the wooden swords, where you stand facing each other, and one man makes this move, stepping to the side, standing next to the other man. And before they're standing with their swords in their hand, facing each other, looking at each other, both having their swords out, the sword pointing at the throat of the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And then you make the move, standing next to them, showing in the same direction, asking them, what can I do for you? And with that attitude inside of me, I can open a space for another man to maybe make more contact with their fear. Because I'm stepping next to them, I'm taking their perspective, standing shoulder to shoulder on their side, and being physically in their team when and then not only physically, but in this exercise, I'm physically next to them. And it shifts the whole, that our survival mechanisms attack each other, and it opens a different space. Specifically, I get out of the way, and an open space is then in front of both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a space where we can create together. But if I stand facing him, it looks more like confronting the other.
You're right.
And then I'm in his focus, or his box and his survival strategy, clinches with my box or my survival strategies.
Right.
But if I get out of the way, then something else is possible. This is one way of an invitation for creating something different together. How do you do it, Devin? How do you do it?
Yeah, great question. I would say up until recently, I've had that approach of the almost the swords crossing, or being at odds. And one of the things that I've been doing recently is really working with the vacuum, meaning asking questions that, especially when I sense or detect something in a man that does not make sense to me, given who I have seen him be, or what I've sensed he actually cares about. And one approach to that is like, hey, you're out of integrity. What are you doing? Which I think is in some ways helpful, can be helpful to do that, but it doesn't invite quite the same level of a person looking at themselves and entering a space of asking. And so that's what I've been practicing more recently. And what I've noticed, I mean, it's kind of a pressureless space, but that when it really comes from something like my need to, it really emerges from my need to really be on their team for the thing that I'm committed to in them. For example, it could be the way they care, the stand that they take in the world, or the way they care about people, or their attunement to Drala, something like that. And I've been practicing that with letting more of that care from my side show up in my conversation or communication, and to be in a discovery with them together, where there's nothing is condemned and nothing is wrong even, but but that doesn't mean that there is integrity happening. That's one thing I've been practicing recently.
Mm-hmm. So I got another question for you. So how is joy part of your work? Like we're speaking about fear, you know, sadness a little bit, anger. What about the joy?
Lately, it's been coming in the creation and so much, but in the, for instance, I've been doing this. I made a decision recently, big decision, which was that I want to take some skill that I'm bad at, I don't have any real competence in, and just go from having no competence to having competence going every step of the way, like very much knowing when I'm practicing and being aware of it. And so the skill that I'm working with is speaking from the unknown. And I've been practicing it, I would say, not quite constantly. For instance, there have been many times in this conversation when I could practice that and have not. But I've been large chunks of my life these last days have been devoted to it. And for me, just being in that process of actually practicing, of working up the whatever I need to work up to allow myself to be in this skill for no reason. Yes, there's a thing of I want to become competent, but in the moment of working on the skill, it's really just to be in relationship with the skill, and to find things I suck at, to find new questions I have about the skill, to notice things that I never noticed before, to even to feel things that aren't joy, to feel my sadness or about, wow, I'm standing in some square yelling, basically, speaking from the unknown, and I'm looking around and there are people who don't know about this skill, and or to experience my terror of getting myself worked up to do it. Even those things, there's this kind of ecstatic joy of, I'm not doing this for money, I'm not doing this for power, I'm not doing this for being able to have sex or whatever. It's like, really, I'm doing this because it brings me so alive. And so that's one of the places I've been finding the joy. The other, there's something where it's connected to this, but it's also connected to being with men, where I think for a long time I've been so fixated on competence and being good at something or already knowing how to do it, that it never occurred to me to really look for incompetence and just move in that direction, and to somehow have some sort of fun, knocking shit over, falling, failing. And I think this is one of the things that school kind of robs people of, is that it's just so important to have the right answer, that the idea that mistakes and stumbling one's way to discovery could possibly be an enjoyable activity is gone. And then it's obvious, if you just spend 5 minutes with a 3-year-old, that's actually the joy of learning. It's like, oh, it's very clear, like there's something very. So I think for me, part of the joy lately has been really rediscovering the playground of just trying stuff and failing, and incompetence not being, I don't even know how to say it, not carrying the weight of pain in some way that it used to. And then doing
joy of
other
incompetence.
People. Yeah, the wonderful joy, the joy of
incompetence.
Yeah, it's not just incompetence. I mean, it's there's really a journey. So it's like, oh, I'm bad at this, I'm bad at that, I'm bad at this. It kind of, if you just live there, then the journey's kind of over. But wrestling, like being in the wrestling of like, how do I do this? What? There's some way where I could do this skill, and to be reaching around in the dark, you know, to somehow be surfing like that.
Yeah, and it's a big shift from starting with the joy of incompetence and going on the path, then from the, oh, damn, I'm incompetent. Hopefully nobody saw it. Like
Yeah,
from a standard, like, oh, did nobody notice? Okay, cool. Okay, all good. And just like, you know, putting it back down instead of going like, oh, wow, look at this, what I just created.
yeah.
And then from there, go on the path, like you said, if I take a skill that that I want to practice and go through the whole process, yeah, I like that experiment. Yeah, to go all the way from the unconscious incompetence to the, well, we'll see how far it goes. Yeah,
Unconscious competence. Yeah, I mean, it's a question I have. Yeah, I think it's great. I just was looking at my life thinking I've changed. Some things are not the way they were. I'm good at some things that I used to suck at, but I don't really have any idea how I got there. And it's like a learning black box for me of, you know, one day I couldn't speak loud enough. I remember I'd always get this feedback of yell when you're in a space holding. And then I don't get that feedback anymore. But I do not have a memory of really going one step at a time yelling. So anyway, this is my journey right now.
Mm-hmm.
My sense is we are coming to a close. Any final words?
My sense too.
How about that?
Famous last words.
Thank you. I thank you for being here and talking and sharing and conversing and asking and trying. Saying. That's a fancy English word for trying. To meet.
Yeah, I really enjoy being in the space with you, and thank you. I enjoyed our conversation.
Yes.
And the ongoing research in the domain. And I feel really glad, and I really appreciate that you are doing your research and the way that how you are so committed. Yeah, specifically to the thing you're doing just now. I saw a couple of the videos that you shared about the speaking from the unknown. Yeah. And that's just like one example, but I really enjoy and appreciate your commitment to your necessity to bring your seed into the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great way to say it. That's exactly it.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to be in more spaces with you to see more of that coming up, and at the same time inspiring the people around you, and therefore me as well, from the way how you do that, because I find that inspiring what you do and how you do it. Thank you for having me, Devin.
Thank you, Mikhail.